We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Thursday. I'm recording late Wednesday night into Thursday morning here in Georgia. By the time a lot of you watch this podcast, I'll be back in Minnesota, and then tomorrow's show will be under normal circumstances with the normal camera and the normal microphone and all that sort of stuff. So I appreciate you being patient with me during the time when I'm using lesser quality stuff. I think I've got that fixed now completely. I'll know when I get home if all the stuff I ordered got there. But nonetheless, we're going to proceed. Now, I was watching TikTok a little bit before I started doing this, and I heard something that I thought was interesting. I have no verification of it other than another TikToker who I watch frequently said this. But I'm hearing now that Mike Lindell filed bankruptcy. Oh, goodness. Who knew? How did that happen? I guess all of us could have told him this for months and months and months and years, that he was throwing his life and his business down the shitter. But he could not grasp that. You got to wonder now if he finally realizes that he was wrong, that he was stupid. I'm guessing not. I mean, at this point, what do you have to lose? You threw your life away, you threw your business away, you threw all your money away. Now, all you can do is keep lying and double down, triple down, quadruple down, quintuple down, whatever. Mike, you fucked up again. There was a time in your life when you were a crack addict and a loser. Then you came up with an idea for a shitty pillow and it was successful. You made all kinds of money. You're not a young man. You're in your 60s, I believe, probably close to my age. You could have coasted the rest of your life and lived in relative luxury. But no, instead, you decided to jump on the bandwagon with a fucking loser, that being Donald Trump. Then you decided to just flat out lie to people. You keep telling us that you have this indisputable evidence, but no one has yet to see it. And you always seem so angry when people say, well, where's the evidence? Oh, it's coming. It's coming. But still, we never see it. Now, for my money, if I was in your place and I had this evidence, I might have showed it before I filed bankruptcy. Fact is, Mike, you don't have the evidence. There is no evidence, and you got caught down a rabbit hole and you couldn't find your way out because you weren't smart enough. You weren't quick enough to get away from Donald Trump when you could. So here we are. As I say, I haven't verified that he has in fact filed bankruptcy, but I wouldn't be at all surprised. I mean, look at the money he's throwing away. And then you throw into, on top of it, he's being sued by Dominion, fucking Dominion, for $1.6 billion. He ain't got nowhere near that. Maybe this bankruptcy is something about that particular lawsuit, but he's hemorrhaged money for a long fucking time. All right. Now, as I say, I'm headed back to Minnesota tomorrow. Looking forward to that. I get to see my kids. I get to see my granddaughter. We're going to watch her Saturday. So I'm fucking psyched about that. We'll play some cool games, mess with the iPad, maybe go down to the park and swing a little bit. Now that's some fucking fun. I have to tell you though, my wife and I went out to lunch yesterday, and we've been planning to go to this place for some time. It's kind of a well-known place in Savannah. It's called the Old Pink House. It's right near downtown, right just a couple blocks off the river walk. And it's very well known and very famous. It's a very old house. And we went in there. We knew it was hard to get reservations because they're just packed all the time. And we knew it was probably a little more expensive than what we would normally do at a normal place. Neither of that was of concern because last week I got online. I said, I probably aren't going to be able to get in there for dinner, but let's try lunch. And hey, lunch might be even a little cheaper. Not that I'm being cheap. I just don't want to spend $250 on fucking dinner. Anyway, we went to the old Pink House yesterday for lunch, and it was absolutely fabulous. The food was great, very fancy. Now, before we went, my wife said, "Are we dressed well enough?" I mean, I had shorts and a polo shirt on. What you see now is what I had on. And I said, what the fuck are you gonna do? It's we don't have any clothes down here but these clothes. So we'll see what happens. And when we got there, there were a lot of folks dressed like us, thankfully. And it was a very fancy place. The service was outstanding. Um, I took some risks this time. I don't usually order things I don't know anything about, but I ordered for an appetizer because it sounded fucking awesome. A blue crab beignet. Now, if you've been to New Orleans, you know what a beignet is. Those are those big sugary pieces of dough that are fucking awesome. So I was wondering if this particular beignet was going to be sugary. It was not, but it had crab in it, and it was very much like a popover, very airy. You bite into it and it folds up, but it was awesome. And then I tried something I've never tried before. Shrimp and grits. Now, of course, I've had shrimp many times, but I'd never had grits. And they gave me two types of grits. There's this grits that's kind of fried in a block, and then the gravy and the shrimp are over the top of it. Fucking awesome. But the waitress was a very, very nice, very intelligent, very classy young lady, probably in her late teens, who knew her business. She gave me another just bowl of the like creamy grits because she said, "You really got to try what they're really like. This is kind of a special version." And I got to tell you this right now, motherfuckers. This old Yankee, this old white northern guy, I think I like me some grits. Now, the question is, where in Minnesota do I get some grits? Anyway, we had a good time. It was kind of a thing we planned to do, and it turned out great. It was a wonderful place. And if you're ever in Savannah, I would concur with everybody else I've ever talked to and go to the old Pink House. Anyhow, we have some emails here, so let's get to them. First one comes from KCT. He's written before. I assume it's a he. We really don't know the gender here, and not that it matters. Gender doesn't matter. I'm just trying to figure out how to refer to this person. Anyway, goes, "Hi, Mike, it's KCT again. As a longtime listener and occasional contributor, I feel this is a safe place to share thoughts, ideas in line with the array of topics you and your listeners enjoy. I write and rant a lot on other sites, but the Rational Boomer audience is a lot less combative and more balanced than most venues. I promise not to dump volumes of mind-numbing rants on you, but I'm considering a weekly or bi-weekly contributions. This may be outside your intent for your show, so no pressure to accept your thoughts." Yeah, write whenever you want. There is no format to the show, really. I just sit down and we do it. If you write a lot, great. If you write a little, that's fine. If you want to be on the show, then email me and we'll put you on the show. I don't think I've ever turned anybody down to be on the show. The only thing I will say about being on the show, if you've been on the show a number of times in recent history, I'd prefer somebody else come on. I don't want, Ed is a different situation. He's on once a week typically, but he's a professional and he knows what he's doing, and I know where he's going to go with it. It's an easy show for me to do. But most people have, a lot of other things to do, so they can't be on all the time. But if you're in a situation where you're going to be on 3 or 4 times in succession in a short period of time, that probably won't go. And it's not because I don't appreciate the input. It's because I want everybody else to have a chance to do what they need to do and get on when they need to get on. And I need some times to do it myself. Anyway, KCT, feel free to write as much as you want. Now, this email is a long one, KCT. And I don't even know where you're going with this, but I'm going to read it just as you wrote it. Sample contribution. All you need is love. Beatles song. Real love versus Christian national love. In 1967, the Beatles produced the song All You Need Is Love. I was 7 then, which sparked large social movements all over the world. It's still an iconic song today. Many people use the song's chorus as a slogan or phrase without knowing or remembering the phrase came from John Lennon. Initially, he wrote the lyric as a continuation of the idea he was trying to express in his 1965 song, The Word, a song sometimes referred to as Word of Love. Lennon was fascinated with slogans that impacted the masses. He was trying to capture the essence of the songs like We Shall Overcome. The straightforward message from the song All You Need Is Love was the ultimate anthem in the 1967 Summer of Love. Many social movements that came after and grew from the events of that summer. Starting to feel a little like Casey Kasem here. Here's a long distance dedication from a boy who lost his dog. I'm kidding with the KCT. He goes on to say, so what is love? Love is defined as an intense feeling of deep affection, a great interest and pleasure in someone or something. Psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists, and counselors have tried for countless generations, spent billions of dollars, and invested in hundreds of thousands of individuals, couples, and families trying to understand, teach, and manage the mysteries of love. From a non-clinical, everyday perspective, our ability to apply love to others has been hit and miss at best. If we're honest with ourselves, we'll admit we all struggle with loving the world around us. And if we're really honest, we'll admit we often struggle with loving those closest to us. I think my wife will agree to that. Blah, blah, blah. What's the point? I'm glad you asked. The basics of loving ourselves, loving others, and being loved is either the greatest emotion, action, or condition of all time, or it's the most abused emotion, action, or condition of all time. Our role as human beings is to take care with which side of the conundrum we fall. Consider this. Most religions acknowledge godly love, defined as selfless and sacrificial. Jesus said, "This is my commandment. Love each other in the same way I have loved you." Evangelicals profess the love of Christ is an endless love beyond measurement that transcends our understanding. This extravagant love pours into you until you are filled to overflowing with fullness of God. All right. He goes on to say, now I'm a Christian and I take my beliefs seriously, but I also know the largest, best funded, most impactful organizations and activities that promote love are religious. It breaks my heart when many of those religious organizations are widely untrusted, feared, scorned, not because of their belief to love others is wrong, but because of their tainted applications to their belief is wrong. Exactly. Trouble with religion is they're run by humans who are fallible and prone to corruption. He goes on, all of us know of many effective, noteworthy churches doing great work, loving and sharing love to their communities. Tragically, all of us know just as many compromised churches leveraging politics, ungodly agendas, power, and self-serving motives. Why have so many churches and church leaders let the basic concept of love, a godly love, Christ-like love, become such an abused emotion and action? Perhaps the love of money and power and influence. I can agree with you on that. Now, don't call me a heretic and burn me at the stake just yet, but I've got you down for the future, KCT. This rant is 100% if the shoe fits, wear it. There are good churches doing good things out there. My beef is with churches and church leaders compromising their beliefs, grifting their followers, promoting political agendas, all the while serving themselves, oppressing others, and manipulating grifted resources. The sad conclusion, some religion and religious leaders use love as an instrument, bait, with a covert hook attached. Reverend Benjamin Kremer noted, if love becomes conditional, if love is reduced to an evangelistic tool, if love becomes just another way of making people be more like a desired persona, then we've totally misunderstood the love of God. If the way you love your neighbor causes your neighbor to want you to die or harm themselves, it's not love at all. It's cruel and evil. If all you need is love, it's critical that love we share is genuine, unconditional, and tainted. Oddly enough, this is not my idea. This is a core concept in most religious organizations' initial beliefs. It's hard to believe this is what we started from when we consider where we are today. Again, love is either the greatest emotion, action, or condition of all time, or it's the most abused emotion, action, or condition of all time. What's in your love wallet? Well, I would say this, that if you identify love as something other than what you initially identified, then it's not love. It's just a word you attach to something to benefit yourself. And that's my biggest problem with religions. Yeah, I believe in God. I pray to God every night. I do, because I believe in God. I just don't believe in all people. And unfortunately, people are the ones that run these organizations. Some are good, no doubt. I happen to run into many that are not, that aren't doing it for the right reasons, aren't caring about all people. So I understand what you're saying, KCT, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't know how you fix a problem like that. I really don't. Too many people are sucked into beliefs and agendas when they look at people who have a certain amount of power over them or they have reverence for. And because they follow those people, they are destined to drown in something other than love, actually. All right. The next email. I think this comes from Gary. Hello, Boomer Mike. I have not written in a while, but never miss a podcast or TikTok. I have been interested in your reports about how some states are a mess with their current GOP leadership, like Texas and Florida. I'd like to hear your take on what is a new, at least to me, tactic of the GOP in Wisconsin. I listened to Rachel Maddow TikTok about a Princeton University gerrymandering project. The study analyzes every voting district and determines if it truly is representative of the residents of the district or it has been gerrymandered to the point of not providing fair representation. The outcome of the study is to grade each district with the AF grading system. The study looked at Wisconsin. Every district received a grade F. The outcome, of course, that the GOP controls both houses of the state government. In the last election, a liberal Democrat named Janet Prozaiewicz ran for Supreme Court justice on a platform that districts were wrong and therefore the elections are rigged. Well, she resonates with the voters and she won by 11% over her rival. This is where the GOP decided to employ their tactic of moving to impeach her before she could even put on the robe and sit at the bench to hear a case. They plan to use the majority in both houses to remove her from office and, in fact, invalidate the election and overturn the wish of the voters. This makes me wonder if this is a new plan for the GOP nationwide to gerrymander and then gain and retain control of elections, even when they lose by impeaching or opposing candidate might win. Let me think about that. If she was elected to this office, it would only mean that there had to be a special election if she's impeached, I would guess. I mean, according to Wisconsin, you can't be appointed a Supreme Court justice. You have to be elected. So there would be a special election. Why would we think the election would turn out any different? In fact, it might even be stronger for the Democrats because they're pissed off of what they did the first time around. These are people in desperation mode. They're trying to throw their Hail Mary pass because they're losing control and they don't know what to do. So they're just doing everything, even the most crazy shit they'll do. Gary says, your comments, please. Thanks again for your daily dose of sanity and love, 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 old soul. Her takes on things is so refreshing. The oldest boomer, Gary. Like I said, every time I do a TikTok or a podcast, I always hear from people who are fearful about what the Republicans will do next. And I understand that. I get that. But you got to take a look at what's going on right now. There was a time when the Republicans were getting away with everything and they were bullying their way through. But if you pay close attention, that's not happening so much anymore. They're failing at every turn. Every trick they like to pull fails. Luck isn't on the side, or truthfulness or righteousness is not on the side of Republicans anymore. They can try to do this in Wisconsin, but I don't think it'll work. Will they impeach her? I don't know. I don't know enough about Wisconsin politics to know if they have a supermajority or not. Because what would happen, even if they impeached her in the House and convicted her in the Senate, then theoretically the governor, who's a Democrat, could veto it unless they had a supermajority. And let's be honest, these people that are doing the things that Trump-fucks do, they're due for an embarrassment. A big embarrassment, and you're going to get some recoil out of the constituents in the respective states. So here's the thing, Gary. I don't worry about things like Wisconsin because I have no control over them. I can only hope for the best and watch what happens. And if it doesn't go the way we want it to go, well, then we stop and we think, what do we do next? And that's what Wisconsin will have to do, and any other state that's kind of in that same situation. We can wring our hands and clutch our pearls, but it's to no avail. There's nothing you and I can do about it. We should focus on those things we can do something about. And with everything else going on in the country, and in Wisconsin for that matter, is we need to speak up and push back. That's really the only option we have at this point. The court of public opinion, that's what we've got. So let's use it to the utmost and make some noise and embarrass these fucks that are trying to get away with ridiculous shit. All right, the next email. Dear Mike, I'm concerned about Elon Musk's recent interventions into the war in Ukraine and meeting with Netanyahu. Interested to hear your thoughts. He's not in a position of political or legislative power. I'm sure he's trying to further Putin and Trump's plan to control Ukraine and help Netanyahu destroy Israel's democracy. But I don't understand how he has access. Being a connected, super rich person helps. I know that gives people access to things the rest of us can't. Who, if anyone, can stop him? Is anyone even trying? I think he's very dangerous. Thank you for being so inclusive. It's wonderful that you encourage anyone who wants to have a voice on your show. Crazy cat mom, Judy from Portland, Oregon. Well, let's be honest. Netanyahu is only a little bit smoother than Donald Trump. He is a fascist at heart, and it's not good for Israel. So when we look at Israel, we've got to feel for them a little bit because they're in no better shape than we are. As far as Elon Musk, I think Elon Musk is doing what Donald Trump is doing, flailing. Elon Musk is failing horribly. Twitter, something he paid $44 billion for, is dying on the vine. It's been around long enough and it's being handled so badly, it will just ultimately go away. I know fewer and fewer people are using Twitter. Tesla is having problems. The big problem with Elon Musk that he has is that while he bought a company and he marketed it and he developed it, and he was the only game in town. Well, now all the big major vehicle companies are making electric vehicles. And you knew that was coming. And these people will bury Tesla. Tesla has a lot of problems. They'll probably be absorbed by some other company, bigger company. I think Elon Musk, everybody thought of him as this very intelligent, super businessman, and he's not. I mean, look what he did with Twitter. Does that illustrate any kind of intelligence? I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. And a great businessman, it's not like he invented Tesla. He developed it. He went to a guy who had it, had developed it, bought it from him, then aced him out of it, and then took it over. He was the first one on the block, so he did well with it at first, but that's going to fail. He's going to be, like I say, absorbed by some other company that can do the job right. But Elon Musk going to talk to Netanyahu, are you worried about that? I'm not really worried about it. Remember, we had Dennis Rodman going to talk to Kim Jong-un. He has no power. He's not going to change anything with Netanyahu. He's doing it for his own publicity. That's the only benefit there. I mean, Elon Musk can't go to Israel, talk to Netanyahu, and change anything. In fact, Joe Biden, I understand, kind of called out Netanyahu and what was going on. Netanyahu should be more concerned about Joe Biden than Elon Musk. Elon Musk is little more than a disturbance, a distraction. He's nobody. Yeah, he's rich, or at least was rich. Yeah, he's successful, but he's just a guy. He's not a politician. He doesn't have any real power other than having money. But having some famous person go talk to some despot or some fascist leader, that's not new. Like I say, Dennis Rodman used to go party with Kim Jong-un. What did that do? Did that give Kim Jong-un any sway at all? No, of course it didn't. He's trying to make some noise for his own benefit. He has no interest in helping the country, certainly. But I don't think he has any interest or has any power to help Putin or Netanyahu or anybody else. In terms of politics, he's nobody. I mean, he's becoming a pariah in this country. So what power does he wield? He doesn't wield anything. He's a fucking idiot. Anyway, got the last email here. This one comes from Colin. He says, I'm in Australia, stumbled across you a while ago, same age, seemingly similar sense of humor. Sorry for that. Really enjoy your work. Cheers, Colin. Thank you, Colin. I appreciate that. And, that's one of the most amazing things about doing this podcast and doing the TikToks. How many people outside the country I get to interact with, Ireland, Jamaica, there's all kinds of places. And it really says a lot. People always tell me, what can I do to change anything in politics? Well, chances are there's not much you can do, but you can try. When I started doing the TikToks, I had 0 followers, but I just kept talking. I kept going. I got more followers. Honestly, I thought I'd get 10,000 followers. Then it went up to 100,000. Then it went up to 200,000. Now it's approaching 300,000. So it gives me a platform to say some things, and hopefully causes other people to think and causes them to talk, and then they talk to other people. Well, I can't do anything personally. Hopefully, I can start a little fire going that will build to a bigger fire that will actually do something. And that's what we try to do with the Rational Boomer podcast and the Rational Boomer TikToks. We all can do something. It's not going to be earth-shattering or change the world necessarily, but if we're all doing it, then we will get that fucking change. So keep talking. Thank you, Colin, for contacting me from Australia. I guess my point was that it's amazing some guy sitting in his living room talking about the things I talk about can reach many people in the country, but people outside the country as well. I'm just like Elon Musk. I'm just a guy. But the fact that I have a platform where I can talk to a lot of people and impart some ideas and some beliefs, and if it resonates with them, they can pass it on, and then they pass it on. See, we all do have a power. It doesn't have to be taking over the world. Just focus on your little world or my little world and do the best you can with it. And then maybe it spreads. So we've got a supporter in Australia and other parts of the country, other parts of the world. And that's where it starts. It's, what do they call that? A groundswell, grassroots, something like that. I mean, for us normal folks, that's all we got. So we might as well fucking do it. All right. We are going to take a quick break and we will be right back. We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. We're talking shit as we normally do. I'm in Georgia, but tomorrow I'll be back in Minnesota and things will be back to normal, so to speak. It was interesting yesterday. There was a hearing or testimony given, and Merrick Garland sat in front of the House Judiciary Committee. And I know the Republicans were anxious for that. Oh, we're going to take Merrick Garland to task. He's evil. He's part of the deep state. Let's tear him apart. Well, unfortunately for the Republicans, didn't really work out that way because apparently Merrick Garland wasn't having it. And some of the other representatives, like Eric Swalwell, were not taking any shit either. Attorney General Merrick Garland appeared to get angry during a House hearing on Wednesday when a Republican lawmaker suggested the Justice Department is targeting Catholics. Wow, where did that come from? Catholics. I wonder if this person, this representative, was Catholic. You know, you can say a lot of things, but I don't even understand where that comes from. It's ridiculous. But it just goes to show what the Republicans do. They'll grab onto anything in order to own the libtards, and it never works. Now, Garland said, the idea that someone with my family background would discriminate against any religion is so outrageous, so absurd. Now, Garland is, of course, Jewish. He had explained during his opening statement that his family members were victims of religious persecution in Europe, and his grandmother's siblings were murdered in the Holocaust. There is little doubt that but for America, the same thing would have happened to my grandmother, Garland said in his opening remarks, according to USA Today. But this country took her in, and under the protection of our laws, she was able to live without fear of persecution. That protection is what distinguishes this country from so many others. The protection of law, the rule of law, is the foundation of our system of government. Yeah, in spite of the fact the Republicans see it different. Repaying this country for the debt my family owes for our very lives has been the focus of my entire professional career. I'm sure this affected no Republicans. Garland appeared emotional several times during his testimony when he referenced his religious background. His fiery rebuke came after Representative Jeff Van Drew of New Jersey, a Republican, questioned whether the Justice Department was unfairly targeting Catholics because of their religious beliefs. The question was regarding an FBI memo leaked in January titled Interest of Racially or Ethnically Motivated Violent Crimes in Radical Traditionalist Catholic Ideology almost certainly presents new mitigation opportunities, which House Judiciary Committee Jim Jordan. This is the thing that interests me, where they came up with this from that memo. Let's be perfectly honest. When you look into some religions, like the Catholic religion, like the Mormon religion, there's a certain amount of racism. But even over and above the racism, most of these organizations basically look at anybody who's not one of them, meaning Catholics or Mormons or whatever, looks at them as heathens and they're going to hell. So it would be natural to understand that a religious organization that already is prejudiced of anybody that's not them might be prejudiced against people of color or other faiths, certainly of other faiths. Jim Jordan claimed he meant that the FBI was targeting certain Catholics as domestic terrorists. Both I and the director of the FBI have said that we were appalled by that memo, Garland said. In response, we are appalled by that memo. So who that memo was written by, we don't know. And, when I see a memo like that, does it have some substance? Maybe it does. And maybe it should be something looked into. But it reminds me of what the Democrats did after the riots in Minneapolis and other parts of the country in the Northwest, where they started talking about defunding the police. That was the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I don't know who's trying to market for these people, but that was the dumbest statement ever made. And the Republicans shoved it in the face of Democrats. What's ironic is that as much as they hated that comment by the Democrats, they now use it for the FBI. We're going to defund the FBI. It's a dumb thing. It was dumb for the Democrats to say. It's dumb for the Republicans to say. It's not even about the idea of it, because it would never happen on either level, police or FBI. It's dumb because it's going to cost you voters. It's going to cost you credibility. But anyway, Jim Jordan and a few of the others in the Republican Party in the House wanted to use that as a way to own the libtards. Here we are a day later. How many people are talking about it other than me? Nobody. They got no traction on that fucking thing because it's ridiculous. Now, one of the biggest whiners in the House Republican caucus, Representative Matt Gaetz, isn't getting his way, so now he's promising a government showdown, or else he's vowing to oust Speaker Kevin McCarthy as the GOP leader in the House, which I find interesting when you think about it. Matt Gaetz is suggesting he has the power to shut down the country and the power to remove Matt Gaetz. Yet his little caucus, the Freedom Caucus, has maybe 35 people in it, and the Republican Party has 218 seats in the House of Representatives. But this is how bullies talk. They threaten you like, I'm all powerful and I'm going to do this to you, so you better shy away. Well, nobody takes Matt Gaetz seriously anymore. He's a fucking idiot and he's a failure. And I will say this, go ahead, try to shut the country down. You're not going to succeed. I think I may be only one of the few people who say I don't think the country is going to be shut down. I get it on my TikToks. I get it here on the podcast. I just think it's going to be shut down. Remember when we had the debt ceiling thing, what I told you? I told you that it would be figured out and finalized in the last moment of the last day, which is pretty much what happened. Politicians love the drama. They love looking like the heroes. Oh, we saved the day. Kevin McCarthy's in a tough position and he is emotional about it. If you saw him on TV, he's almost crying. He doesn't know what to do. He's supposed to be in control of the Republican caucus. Unfortunately, they're so divided that no one's in control, and it shows. It's only a matter of how much they allow the MAGA group to get away with. They've allowed them to get away with a lot thus far. And I think when we get down to nut cutting time, as I often say, what'll happen is the Democrats will work a deal out with Kevin McCarthy, and they'll get the fucking thing passed. And then Matt Gaetz will be all upset and want to take Kevin McCarthy out of his job. Only he and I both know something that's very important. Matt Gaetz doesn't have enough votes to kick Kevin McCarthy out. And once he's called on his bluff and he can't deliver, guess what? Matt Gaetz and the whole Freedom Caucus become a lot weaker. And if the Republicans are smart when that happens, you need to kick them to the curb. Otherwise, you're going to be having them hanging around your neck for the rest of your fucking days. Now, a day after the Ross story found, and I talked about this yesterday, they found 2 copies of Gaetz' motion to vacate in one of the Capitol public restrooms. The Trump ally is now promising to officially challenge McCarthy's power unless the speaker agrees to shut down the government, which makes no sense. Kevin McCarthy does not want to shut down the government because Kevin McCarthy is only a little bit smarter than Matt Gaetz, and he knows, as do many of the other Republicans, they know that if they shut down the country, the government, Republicans are getting the blame for it. And it's going to be one of another bunch of things that destroy them in the 2024 election. But Matt Gaetz isn't about elections or anything like that. We hear now that he may be running for governor next time around of Florida, since Ron DeSantis can no longer run for the governorship. Gaetz told reporters, "I want compliance. Whether or not Kevin is speaker remains in his hands," Gaetz told reporters outside the Capitol. Again, Matt, you're talking pretty big for a guy who has no fucking power. You got 35 people in your group, and you can't do shit if the Republicans are gutsy enough to push back. And as we get closer to this election, and with the possible shutdown happening, they have no choice. They've been kind of pussy-ass bitches up to this point, letting the Freedom Caucus drag them around like a bull with a ring in his nose. But that's got to come to an end. Eventually, the threats don't hold any threat, and they push back. And this may be the moment it happens. People think the country's going to be shut down, and it could be. It's not as devastating as not raising the debt ceiling. But remember, Kevin caved there too. And they could have kicked him out then. That pissed them off enough, but they didn't. Because they know they don't have enough votes. And if they don't have enough votes, they expose themselves for the pussy-ass bitches they are. All right. It was an open secret in Donald Trump's administration that Rudy Giuliani was kind of a wild card, that he might show up drunk to the White House and that women should stay clear of him, a former Trump administration official said on Wednesday. Alyssa Farah Griffin, a former communications official in the Trump administration who renounced him following the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, appeared on CNN's Prime Time to discuss recent allegations that the man previously known as America's mayor groped Cassidy Hutchinson. She became famous because she is the one person at that time, the one person that had the courage and temerity to actually speak out and tell the truth about what was going on in the White House on January 6th. She didn't hold any specific power, but she was there. She was in the White House. She saw what happened, and she had the courage to stand up and speak out. And at that point, she was the only one. Now, more and more of them are coming out because they're fearful of being put in jail. Cassidy Hutchinson never had to be fearful about putting in jail because the moment she saw something wrong or something illegal, she spoke up. She's not an indicted member of the Trump administration. For all intents and purposes, she's almost a fucking hero. I mean, I think most of us believe that. And as I said, she has a book coming out, and in that book, she says that Rudy Giuliani groped her a couple of times. Is that a surprise to you? It's not a surprise to me. Just look at that creepy fuck. I just, I just don't know. At his age, in his late 70s, maybe 80, I don't know how old. How's that motherfucker still have a sex drive? Jesus Christ. Now, the first question Griffin was asked is whether Hutchinson, whom she knows personally, ever told her anything about the alleged incident. Griffin said she trusts Hutchinson implicitly and that she did remember some kind of vague warning from her. I remember about 2 years ago her alluding to something, and I don't want to misrepresent the words. Either he was creepy or handsy with me, Griffin said. I mean, this girl's young. What's she, 26? And he's 165? As my wife would say, that's just icky. She noted that those of us working the West Wing at the time knew Giuliani's stench was a wild card. He was unpredictable, being careful on how I say this. There were concerns. I don't know if they were true that he would come to the White House inebriated. Yeah, clearly drinking's a problem for Rudy Giuliani. We found out more about that recently. Griffin added that there was a sense among women in the White House that you didn't want to be around him. Think of that. We've got Rudy Giuliani in the White House, and he's more of a sexual assault threat than Donald Trump. That's fucking saying something. I'm just saying. Now, I keep talking about 2024 and people fearful of Donald Trump winning in 2024. As I've told you, I don't think he'll be the nominee. He won't run in 2024. And even if he did, he'd get fucking destroyed. I know it. You know it. And you know what? The Republicans know it too. Well, a sure sign that I'm on the right track is something like this. Former President Donald Trump's rally in Iowa didn't draw the sort of crowd he may have hoped for. Although supporters stood in the rain for hours to enter, Trump's rally in Dubuque is not as well attended as past rallies have been. It was posted that the venue can hold 3,000 people from any vantage point in the back, accounting for the large press area. I would guess the room was half full. So we're talking about 1,500 people that show up to see their Lord and Savior, Donald Trump, in Iowa. Now, this is important because the Iowa caucuses are the first to come up, and Donald Trump really needs to win the Iowa caucus, and things aren't looking good. One of the problems Donald Trump has is he's gone after the governor, Kim Reynolds of Iowa. And while Kim Reynolds is fuckhead in her own right, she's fairly popular. Now, if you want to win the Iowa caucus, you don't want to piss off the one person that everybody loves or the majority loves. But Donald Trump doesn't think, he just talks. He spews shit out of his mouth as if it's, he'll say anything that comes to his mind thinking he's a genius. And all it ends up being is Donald Trump is like a monkey throwing his shit at the fucking glass. Now, during the rally, Trump discussed how he supports exceptions to abortion bans and actually earned applause with that line. Now, the former president has constantly tried to play up the size of the crowds that gathered to hear him speak. He famously overestimated the size of the crowd gathered for his inauguration in 2017, and for years complained that the media didn't take his claims about it seriously. That should have been a red flag for us. Right after he's inaugurated, he's not thinking about the problems of the country, the problems of the world. No, instead, he's worried about lying about the number of people that attended his inauguration. He's concerned about his ratings, if you will. We know that's a big deal with Donald Trump. So now we're seeing the people coming out to see him starting to dwindle. I've told you this before. He has a base of like 30%, but I think that's even starting to waver some. Donald Trump is losing support. He's losing votes. And that's why I say there's no way he can win in 2024 if by some miracle he is able to run. Now, he's continued to make similar exaggerations on the 2024 campaign trail, claiming he drew a crowd of 75,000 at Pickens, South Carolina, only for the Secret Service to undercut the claim. Even Trump's own supporters have had to admit in recent years his crowds hadn't had the same energy or size that they used to. Why would they? He's been nothing but a fucking failure. And people are getting tired of it, and they're running out of money to continue Donald Trump's grift. Now, MSNBC's Nicole Wallace, who I like, called on the Senate to move faster to approve military nominations now that lawmakers have bypassed Senator Tommy Tuberville's blockade that's been preventing them for months. Tuberville is blocking all DOD nominees in the Senate until the Pentagon reverses its policies on reimbursing travel expenses for members who are stationed in states where abortion is illegal. Typically, the Senate confirms most nominees without holding an actual vote, with the confirmations happening via unanimous consent. Senate rules, however, allow a single senator to impose a standing objection about a hold. Now, I've heard a lot of people say this, and I'd have to echo these words. Wallace said, "Why doesn't Chuck Schumer say today we're going to do a 30-day and in 10 days when Chairman Mark Milley leaves Washington, D.C., and an honorable career in the military, they'll be all done. And you know what? Sit your asses down, Republicans. You're not going anywhere until all 300 are done." Why isn't there any innovation up there? Wallace asked reporter Ali Vitale. Now, Ali Vitale said he could, but right now I think one of the key battles on this is over the principle, which is these promotions should be used as a bargaining chip at all. Well, they lost, right? They've lost, Wallace interrupted. All of the there are no confirmed heads of, they lost on principle, didn't they? I think Vitale said, I think just to be clear, everyone here is a loser on this one. Because I just think that really important when you play games like this, where you're using military promotions as pawns, and I think that's why we're not seeing this as one of those clean partisan issues. Even Mitch McConnell has gone as far as to say that Tuberville, what he's doing is a mistake. Well, then fucking do something about it. Like Nicole Wallace said, say, okay, if this is how you want to do it, you want to do a vote on every fucking one of them, we're going to do a vote, and we're going to sit here until it's done. And then we'll see how the Republicans and the Democrats that have chosen to do nothing, what they do now. Do the Republicans, are they willing to sit there and not have their 4-day fucking weekends or their 2-month vacations? I agree with Nicole Wallace and everybody else who said this. I think that Schumer has been kind of a wimp on this, and it's gone on too long. It's too damaging to our military, and we just can't let it go any farther. We've got to stop this shit. Now, we talked about the judiciary hearing with Merrick Garland, and I told you that Merrick Garland got a little lippy with the Republicans, as he should have, but also some of the Democrats kind of stuck it in the face of Republicans as well. Now, during Wednesday's House Judiciary hearing, Eric Swalwell, another guy I like, prominently displayed a timer labeled Jordan Subpoena Evasion to call out Chairman Jim Jordan for hypocrisy, as Republicans suggested that Attorney General Merrick Garland was in contempt of Congress. Eric Swalwell basically said, Mr. Attorney, my colleagues just said that you would be held in contempt of Congress, referencing a statement made just minutes earlier by Representative Thomas Massey, who said, aren't you in fact in contempt of Congress when you refuse to answer? Swalwell continued, and that is quite rich because the guy who is leaving the hearing room right now, Mr. Jordan, is about 500 days into evading his subpoena. About 500 days, Swalwell went on. If we're going to talk about contempt of Congress, let's get real. Are you serious that Jim Jordan, a witness to one of the greatest crimes committed in America, a crime where more prosecutions have occurred than any crime in this country, refuses to help his country? And we're going to get lectured about subpoena compliance and contempt of Congress? Jim Jordan won't even honor a lawful subpoena. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? There's no credibility on that side. Now, as Swalwell spoke, the camera focused in on Jordan smiling and laughing with other House members while clearly ignoring Swalwell's pointed comments. But you would think that'd be something that you'd want to answer to, but not Jim Jordan. Definitely not Jim Jordan. It wasn't the first time that Swalwell bashed Jordan for his failure to comply with Congress. During a Judiciary Subcommittee meeting in March, Swalwell said, so we're going to haul witnesses in here today and claim they did not comply with subpoenas or requests. And that request is so rich because it's coming from a chairman who himself did not comply with the January 6th committee's request. Jordan dismissed the subpoena he received to testify before the January 6th committee, claiming it did not serve any legitimate or legislative purpose. Well, with all these convictions, I beg to differ. Now, according to the Hill publication, the January 6th panel ultimately filed ethics complaints against Jordan and other lawmakers for ignoring the subpoenas. This is the point about the Republicans. They're absolute hypocrites. They said there's no evidence that it's important for them to testify. Well, then why would it be important for Merrick Garland to testify to this Judiciary Committee to hear this bullshit about being against Catholics and the FBI is doing this and that and the other thing? They've got away with this for so long. It's becoming tiring. And like a lot of people have said, we need to get tough with these fuckers. I got to tell you this. If Democrats regain the majority in the House and the Senate after 2024, they better go hard after these people. Don't just let them go. They've got to be accountable for the shit they do and the lies they tell. We'll see if the Democrats have the stomach for it. Now, we have another flipper. And we're going to see a lot of these in the coming weeks, I think. This one is Lin Wood, the MAGA attorney who lost his law license in the wake of purportedly false claims made in court in connection with the 2020 election, denied reports Wednesday that he's flipped on Donald Trump, but reportedly admits to being a witness for the state in the Sidney Powell case. Yeah, you're still afraid of Donald Trump. I got to tell you this. If they're cutting you some slack and they're asking you to testify, it ain't all about Sidney Powell. She's not the target in this investigation. It was reported earlier Wednesday that Wood had been a cooperating witness for Georgia prosecutors investigating Trump and his co-defendants on racketeering charges. The veteran lawyer surrendered his law license in July after disciplinary proceedings related to his work trying to overturn Trump's 2020 election. It was reported that Fani Willis had revealed that Wood had been a witness for the state, but Wood came out strongly against the suggestion that he flipped on the former president. I call bullshit, Lin Wood. If you didn't flip on the president, you wouldn't get any kind of consideration. He says, I didn't flip on President Trump. That's just pure nonsense. Yeah, that's what you want Donald Trump to think. Wood, he said, I wouldn't have any knowledge to flip on him. Really? Well, if Sidney Powell has knowledge on Donald Trump, you certainly have knowledge on Donald Trump. He's like the fraternal twin of the QAnon fucking screaming Sidney Powell. Now, according to the report, Wood said he was asked generally about election lawsuits in which his name was included as a plaintiff attorney alongside Trump attorney Sidney Powell, but he said his participation in them was negligible. That sure didn't sound like it when you were ranting and raving back in the day. Powell is one of the 19 defendants in the Fulton County RICO case. So this will be interesting. These people will deny that they're flipping on Donald Trump up until the moment they flip on Donald Trump because they're scared to death of Donald Trump. I have no understanding why. Donald Trump is like a wounded animal. Yeah, he might do some crazy stuff, but he doesn't have the power or the clout that he once had. We'll find out if Lin Wood actually flipped on Donald Trump. We'll find out because when the trial starts, the evidence will come out. The witnesses will come out. Remember, this one's on fucking TV. So Lin Wood, be careful what you say because you may be proven a liar once again. All right, we are going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen, and I hope you have a great day. I'm going to get on a plane, head back to Minnesota, and we, of course, will talk to you tomorrow.